Hello everybody and welcome to the 10, 11, 12, maybe even 13 plus point tempoross guide. Stick around to see how we do it. The requirements for it are very simple, everybody. You need to actually be able to fish at tempoross, which is like 35 fishing. And guess what? That's all you need, and I'm about to go through an inventory breakdown. Barbarian fishing does help a lot though. A rope, preferably your spirit angler's outfit. A hammer, preferably the Imikando hammer, but you might not even need a hammer at all. And then you're gonna need 4 buckets, fill them up before you get to the boat. And there you go, everybody, that's all you need for this. And I do want to preface this video by saying that this is only addressing the Why Cook combat achievement. If you guys do need some more help with the tempoross combat achievements, just leave that down in the comments and I might even have an update for you later. I do also want to say that tempoross is a little bit RNG dependent and not every one of these runs are gonna look the same, and you'll usually be able to tell if you're off time for a run. So this video might be more accurately categorized as a tips and tricks video. But if you watch the video and follow along with this process, then you're definitely gonna get 10 points or over. And no, you might be thinking this invalidates my previous tempoross guide, but sorry, that one still works just perfectly fine. But this one, you're able to get almost 13, maybe even 14 points if you really push it. We're actually gonna just jump right into it, everybody, because that's what you're here for. So, why are we looking at the boat? Because you don't point your camera the right direction when you're doing a solo, and you're gonna change that right now. This is where your camera should be pointed. And throughout this video, I'm gonna give as many tips as I can to cut your clicks as much as possible. All right, the very first fishing spot that we're gonna go for, it's kind of RNG related, but it does not matter. One of them will disappear before the others, but hopefully you'll be able to get 2 rows of fish before that happens. And whenever we run into a period where I do have downtime, I'm gonna start in with tempoross tip number 1. Don't worry about fires if a wave is coming. It'll take care of it for you. As long as they're not in their way, they're not a problem. Once we've got 2 rows of fish together, obviously we're gonna cook them up because we're waiting on that double fish spot. And cooking up around 6 to maybe even 8 fish will actually give you enough time to wait for the double fish spot. Here we go, everybody. Double fishing all the way as much as we can. Our major goal here is to look for 17 fish. That's all we need right now is 17 cooked fish, which means 4 full rows and 1 cooked fish. Tempoross tip number 2, keep track of the fishing spots and where they're moving. You don't want to click on a fishing spot that's about to move. You want to click on the most recent fishing spot. Once the wave passes, that might even end up being the last wave you ever have to deal with. Get at least 17 of these fish cooked up, and then once we do, we're gonna run up to the boat. I'm also not gonna cut out any of this, but I may end up speeding it up a little bit just to make things a little bit easier to watch for some people who aren't doing it side by side. Which for me, I don't like doing things side by side. I actually just like to go through the video and then see if I can attempt it and then fix it from there. The storm didn't hit yet and I want to get rid of these fires, so I just caught a couple of fish, and now that I can get rid of these fires, I'm running straight up here and dumping all 17 of my fish into the fish box. If you've taken care of all of your fires or a wave is about to come, feel free to drop your buckets. I definitely should have dodged there, but you know what? It is kind of a good thing that I got hit with this water surge, because that put me back a little bit, and now this wave is gonna come. If I didn't get hit by the water surge, I wouldn't have gotten the wave taken care of, and I would have had to take care of those fires down there later. So that actually did save me a little bit of time. Always go for the double fish spot if you can manage. But of course it disappeared. Since it disappeared and I already have pretty much 2 rows of fish, I'm just gonna cook these 2 rows of fish and wait for the next double fish spot. But hey, it's time to catch some fish. Prioritize the double fish spot over pretty much anything else unless your inventory is almost completely full. But that brings us to tempoross tip number 3. The double fish spot can actually be a trap, which you may even see later in this video. If you've only got 3-4 spaces even of fish, it's not necessarily more effective for you to run to the double fish spot than it would be for you to run to a normal fishing spot. All of the water surges and fires end up stopping once you get your energy at 10 or below. And that's where we're going to keep the energy from now on, because now all we need to do is 19 fish, which makes the energy stay at 4% for your next round. I might also include that the storm intensity, your last call to be able to make it to the ship, is 94%. If you're running to the ship after 94%, you've already failed. But you might even be able to count as well. And I've only loaded in 18 cooked fish, but 2 raw fish will make up for 1 cooked fish. You can only do that 3 times before you throw off your percentage ratio. And of course, we're just gonna harpoon as much as we can. And the first harpooning is the most effective, where you're gonna draw most of the essence away. And if you had buckets, it would have been the best time to fill your buckets is when you're on the dock. One more tempoross tip. Barbarian fishing increases the experience ratio that you're going to get. You wouldn't get the strength experience otherwise, and it's almost wasteful for you not to gain strength, fishing, and construction experience through this method. The exception to that rule would be the Dragon, Infernal, and Crystal Harpoon, only to increase the fishing experience or points gained. But I still don't believe it's a higher experience ratio than if you had strength experience included in. One quick tempoross tip: when loading fish into the boxes on the boat, do not stand between the boxes, because if either of the boxes get a water surge, you'll get hit. Tempoross tip: if you are going to go to a mass world, don't be a leech. Bring a bucket, bring a hammer, and make sure to put out the fires and repair the masts. And cook as much as we can. We of course only need 19 cooked fish to be able to move on to the next round. But we do have a goal to be able to get 2 full inventories of fish before this round. And ooh, double fish spot, don't mind if I do. And yes, I did drop a couple of raw harpoon fish just so I could fully utilize that double fish spot, because I would have ran to the double fish spot for 4 fish and that would have been dumb. One more tempoross tip: make sure to fill up your buckets after the game is over. Grab any equipment you may be missing and make sure that it's ready to go before the next game. This tip is for a very niche community, but if you didn't want to gain construction experience, just don't buy a house. And I'll follow that up with one more, maybe controversial tempoross tip. Humidify is all but useless unless you're lazy. I have only ever seen it be useful for one scenario, and it was filling an entire inventory of buckets, because filling between 2 to even 8 buckets is almost instant. All right, everything's cooked. Let's head up to the boat, everybody. And no, don't put it in the box. We're gonna drop everything, the whole inventory. And if you wanted to, you could repair the mast, but I don't really care about it anymore. But it does give you extra points if you find yourself lacking in points. Tempoross tip: the spirit flakes don't work here, and I'm not sure Rada's Blessing does either, but I always bring the Rada's Blessing. We had 6 fish on the ground, and I just caught another 2 to give me a whole 2 rows, and I'm gonna cook those up. But there's that double fish spot. I thought I was gonna get ahead of it, but I definitely didn't. So, catch as many fish as we can, and let's see if we can get as many fish as possible before the storm intensity reaches 94. I want to reiterate this again. 94 is the last call for you to click on the boat. That's it. Double fish spot ended and I didn't want to go to a new spot, so I just put everything on the boat. Obviously, we're going to drop the raw fish and we're going to start loading in the cooked harpoon fish. We only need to load in 19 cooked harpoon fish though to be able to advance to the next round. And you might be thinking, well, I could mark my inventory to make the point of 17 fish or even 19 cooked fish to be a little bit easier for me to realize. And this is where I'm going to say, you probably shouldn't, and it's not necessarily worth it. Just count to 17 or 19, depending on what you're looking for, and you will probably only ever do a method like this once or twice just to make sure that you've got it down. And I only point that out because I'll be going over points per minute after the game of solos, perfect solos, and masses. All right, that's 19, everybody, and I'm gonna try to pick up as much as I can. I think I have enough room. Well, 3 are still on the deck, so we're gonna drop 3 cooked one and take the 3 raw ones because having a raw fish on the deck isn't really very useful. Oh no, I just missed the harpooning. But that doesn't matter, we wanted all that extra time. Let's get to cooking. So tempoross points at the very end of a game are a little bit tricky to calculate, but here's a quick guide on how you might be able to figure it out. After 2,000, you get a point for every 700 points that you add onto your board. So at 2,700, you've now earned another point, and so on and so forth. To be able to get a perfect 10 Why Cook achievement, you need 8,300 points. But you have a chance of getting the perfect Why Cook achievement if you're just over 7,600. So don't feel pressured to be perfect or get this perfect because you might just get your goal anyway. And that applies to my previous tempoross guide as well. Alright everybody, let's run straight up to this boat and, you guessed it, drop all of these fish. And sometimes it is easier for me to drop the fish more consistently coming from the bottom instead of the top. I'm going to pick up these 3 fish just because I don't want them to despawn, and then we're heading out to grab one more inventory. This should be more than easy enough to get a full inventory of cooked fish, especially since our storm intensity is only at about 40% right now. I will give a little bit of spoiler for the end of the video, everybody. The perfect solo is never going to be an efficient points per minute system. If you're not getting 1 point per minute of your time in tempoross, then you are wasting your time. So that means it's between high speed solos or a mass completion. And let's get to cooking. We're obviously going to wait for the next double fish spot, and hopefully we'll have all of these fish cooked up by the time that we do. But my tempoross tips are starting to run kind of thin. If you guys happen to have any of those, please leave them down in the comments. I would love to hear it. And if there's anything that you can see here that might shave off some time on my run, please let me know. And of course, as soon as you see the double fish spot, run to that as fast as you can. And perfect. All the way full, and let's see if we can get this all cooked up. We've got 75 storm intensity right now, and we only have until 94%. I'm sure you guys are probably pretty sick of hearing that one though. I do actually have one more tempoross tip for those that have no agility. Remember that your run energy fills exponentially while you're harpooning the spirit pool. Alright, everything's cooked up, and we even still have a little bit of time left over. So let's come onto the deck, and yes. Alright, yeah, we were pretty high on storm intensity, so we're gonna load in a couple first and then drop these ones and then pick up the old fish that are still on the deck. We don't want those to despawn, so let's get them all. Don't worry about the building energy, because believe it or not, everyone, we're gonna skip this round as well. You're gonna load in a full inventory of fish in this one, but we gotta make sure you get a couple of fish in the other ammunition crate as well. Maybe at least 8 to 10 fish, so that way both cannons fire, because now we're moving into round 4. and both cannons need to be firing to be able to beat tempoross before the storm intensity ends. So as you can see, both of our cannons are going hard, and we're gonna pick up the rest of these fish, and we're gonna try our best to equally distribute the fish into the boxes. And if you didn't know, you can actually right click the boxes to be able to check how many fish are even in there. But it's just better if you keep track on your own. See, there we go. We got 2 raw fish in there, and so I'm making sure I'm gonna put 2 more in here to accurately get it half and half. But if you do this method and you get it down, you'll never really have to count your fish again. You'll just know where they should be. We are gonna miss this harpoon run, but that is totally okay. Just trust in the more than 2 inventories of fish you've already got loaded in there to get you to the very next harpoon stage. My gosh, everybody, it's been quite the fight, but we've actually only had to harpoon twice, once in the very beginning and once at the very end. And we were able to knock out his essence more than 50 in a single go. So if you are ever worried about that, just make sure you get to the harpoon spot before the energy is built. And there you go, everybody. We've got 13 reward permits, and that's where you're gonna get your Y cook. So if you guys do have any questions for that method, leave them down in the comments. Now, this isn't necessarily an update to my previous method because the previous method does still work, but this is a more consistent way for you to be able to get over 10 points a game for tempoross. If you guys did enjoy this video, please make sure to like, comment, or subscribe. And just like last time, if this got you over 10 points and the Y Cook achievement, please leave it down in the comments a little easy. A quick note for the comments and questions section. I know I'm gonna get, or at least a response to the comments and questions sections in the last tempoross guide. Try this method a few times before you retire it to failing, or you think that they updated the game, or you're just too low of a fishing level to do it. You're not. You just need to practice. And next I'm gonna talk about the points per minute for just a minute. Okay, well, first things first, we're gonna be looking at our previous method, which is 10 points a game, just barely, and it actually just squeaks by at a little bit over 10 minutes, which is really good. It's almost 1-to-1. Would end up calling this the perfect solo, but they don't always go that way, and in general they do take a little bit longer. Like you've even observed from this video now, I was able to do a much better solo, but it took me much longer, so it wasn't really better in the long run as far as time spent. Here's an example of a timestamp from a quick solo. Just do it as fast as you can, but maximizing points. And you can see it's just under that 1-to-1 ratio, which we haven't seen very often. And do keep in mind I'm trying to get all of these statistics through barbarian fishing, which is the slowest type of fishing. If you had a dragon, infernal, or crystal harpoon, these would maximize exponentially. And then the last one I want to look at is a typical mass. And this is obviously done without the dragon harpoon or any of those. And you can tell that there's a bit of a discrepancy here. The time is crazy sometimes, and you cannot control if it's going to be a good run or a bad run, especially if you were just trying to get these done quickly. So at the end of the day, this guide should only be used once. Mass tempoross is also a hindrance to your points per hour, and if you do want to get the most points out of tempoross, do quick, heavy point solos. I said it earlier and I'll say it again. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I really appreciate you sticking around till the end, and if you guys like this video, make sure to give it a like, comment, or even subscribe, and I'll see you all later.